welcome to the 14th episode of Burning Questions, a podcast focused on reducing risk in your communities and answering some of your questions along the way. Each episode will focus on one safety topic that we get a lot of questions about. We'll do our best to answer some of those questions, and we'll try and clear up any misconceptions about those topics along the way. If you have questions you'd like for us to answer, leave a voicemail for us at 864-430-0510, or you can email us at bsfdpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll try and give you an answer in a later episode. On today's episode, we're talking about smoking-related fires. We'll cover how and why they occur, and how you can prevent them, how to respond in the event of a home fire, and some relevant statistics regarding the danger that these types of fires pose. But before we dive into that, I'd like to take a moment and introduce our guest, Firefighter Holden Courson. First, welcome. Second, how long have you been in the fire service?
I've been in for about a little over 2.5 years.
Okay, so 2.5 years in, so you've seen some things.
Couple.
And then, what's the highest level of credentials that you've earned? I'm assuming Fire 2?
Fire 2, and I'm taking classes to become an engineer soon, hopefully.
Awesome. And you're a EMTB as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, first off, let's just start by making sure that everyone understands what we mean when we say smoking-related fires. So, can you explain exactly what are we talking about when we say that?
Yeah, so smoking-related fires, that's basically just cigarettes, cigars, pipes, and that's when people put them out in pots, mulch beds, just anything dry, and that just takes a little while, and then once it gets enough oxygen, gets big enough, it can take off.
And are these types of fires very common?
These are the most common types of fires.
So I've got some stats right here. It says NFPA, or National Fire Protection Association, says that smoking materials are one of the leading causes of home fire deaths in the U.S. Can you speak to that at all?
Basically, NFPA said that in 2019, smoking materials caused an estimated 7,100 home structure fires, 250 deaths, and 790 injuries. And I've seen it firsthand. Just that is so common.
Well, that's a lot of important information. When you say that you've seen these fires, what kind of impacts do these fires have on individuals and then on the communities that they live in?
From what I've seen, I've been to bigger fires, 3,000 square foot homes that are fully involved, and it's just, you don't realize until it's so drastic. So it can be a little thing, or it can be a much bigger thing, and you just don't know until it happens.
Yeah, and I like that you mentioned apartment fires, because we have had a string of apartment fires caused by discarded smoking materials. When we have those, people don't realize just how many families are affected.
Mm-hmm.
So in our district, I know we've got most of our apartment complexes are between 16 to 24 units per building. Can you speak to how many times have we been on scene and these fires are so far progressed that none of the apartments are livable?
Yeah, so, just recently we had a pretty big apartment fire, and when we got in, at least a quarter of the building was fully involved. It was through the roof. We had to clear out every single apartment. Just putting out the fire causes water damage just because that's the nature of the beast, and every family has to go out, and then we have to go in and save what we can.
You were saying that these fires, they can get really big really fast, and they affect a lot of homes or a lot of residents. Can you speak a little bit to how would we even begin trying to prevent these fires from occurring in the first place?
Yeah, so there are several best practices for smoking indoors and outdoors. It's important to use ashtrays, other fire-safe containers, and to make sure that smoking materials are fully extinguished when disposing of them. When you put them out and you're like, well, I don't see it smoking, that doesn't mean it's out. That can very easily mean it's going to take a few hours, and then whenever everyone's asleep or you're not paying attention, it's going to grow and then could cause one of these big fires. So use the right materials to put them out in. Don't trust it because you don't see it smoking. Use water if nothing else. Better safe than sorry.
Absolutely. And I know we've had cases here where homeowners or residents have known there was a fire. They thought the fire was extinguished. Either they leave and come back, or they wake up in the middle of the night and the side of their home is on fire. I know that these fires can sit and smolder for a long time. You had mentioned that it's easy to think that something is out and then for it to flare up later. What would be a good way for people to become aware of a fire early that might be burning in or around their home? What's the best method for that?
First thing that comes to mind is immediately smoke alarms. Smoke alarms save lives. Have them in every bedroom, main area around the house, and they will alert you so early. You'll be able to get out of the house, and you just got to have these plans in case something like that happens.
I could not agree more. Side note to any listeners that are in our area, we install smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms for anyone that lives in our area for free. We pair that with a home safety visit, and we'll talk about things like smoking safety as well as any other home hazards that we may see. But just a heads up for the listeners that we do offer that service, so feel free to reach out to us and we'd be happy to take care of you. Now, Holden, you mentioned earlier that when we go to these fires, it's not just the fire damage that we need to address, there's also water damage. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes, so the average fire, we put thousands of gallons, especially on one of these apartment fires. You have to make sure everything's put out, and then when you combine that with this huge size, you get all these rooms, there's just going to be damage that will need to be addressed.
Yeah, and people don't think about it, but water weighs a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So taking any home, if you were to put thousands of gallons of water in it, that's a huge weight load that you're putting on the structure of the home, and it may not be able to sustain it. The other thing is, with modern furnishings, even a small fire produces so much thick black smoke that you may have to have a remediation company come in or a restoration company come in and clean all of your clothes or clean the walls, clean the ceilings, because that thick black oily smoke just seems to stick to everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all carcinogenic.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about some of the damage that can happen when we're responding to these fires, but if a fire were to occur, what should somebody do if they notice that there's a smoking related fire in or around their home? How can they safely evacuate, and what should their next steps be?
I mean, first thing, you should have a plan. If there's a fire in your home, have a plan with your family, whoever lives there, get to a safe place. It's always get down, get out, call 911. A lot of people think, well, someone else has probably already called 911. This fire's big enough. Always call 911. You also really want to close doors behind you. That fire wants oxygen, and when you can trap it, it causes at least that barrier with the door and gives so much more time than you might think for the structure, just so we can put it out once we get there.
I really like two of the things that you just said. The first one was calling 911. I know that, I don't know about other fire departments, but I know for us, we've had several recent fires where nobody called 911. Everybody had assumed that somebody had already called, and there was a delay in the activation of the 911 system. And anytime there's a delay, the fire is still growing. So I wanted to bring that up really quickly. Can you talk to us a little bit about how fast these modern fires are growing?
Yeah, so especially in all these new homes, they're using a lot more plastics. A lot of these things burn up much quicker. Fire load doubles every 60 seconds. So it grows exponentially. So calling 911 immediately just gives more of a chance than you think.
And then the other thing that you said earlier that I really wanted to come back to was closing those doors behind you to help contain the fire. That pairs perfectly with something that we've been preaching for years, which is the Close Before You Doze program. Can you speak a little bit more to the Close Before You Doze and why that is so important?
Yeah, so the Close Before You Doze program was started by FSRI, and it's called See the Difference a Door Can Make, and it shows that difference. One is much cleaner, can't see a thing in the room, and then the other one is completely covered with soot, and that door can hold back all those toxins that you don't want to be breathing in, and it can give you that little bit of extra time to hear that smoke detector maybe in your hallway before that can make it to that bedroom. Well,
and that brings me to something that we have noticed recently, and that is we've had cases of people leaving a bedroom where they are relatively safe. They have clean air to breathe. The fire has not reached into the bedroom yet. So they're leaving these relatively protected spaces to try and evacuate through their normal means. Can you kind of describe that first on-scene officer, what they're doing, and how they might be better off staying in that protected space for just a little bit longer so that we might be able to effect a rescue?
Whenever a fire officer arrives on scene, that first officer does what's called the 360. He does a walk around of the entire building, so he sees all four sides so we can get a good idea of what we're going against. And if you are at that window, you can shine a light out of it, wave a cloth out of it. If nothing else, open that window, throw a couple things out, close it back, and that officer will see it. But you want to stay in that safe haven, so maybe put a wet cloth under the doorway to stop that smoke from coming in. Just because you need to get out doesn't mean the safest option is going through that fire.
Yeah, Holden, I don't think I could have said that any better. So you don't want to go through the fire to try and get out of the building. There should always be a second means of egress, and knowing that and having it as part of your plan could really make the difference between life and death.
Yeah, definitely.
So that takes us to some of our listener questions. The first one that I've got here is, what are the most common causes of smoking related fires and how can they be prevented? I know you already spoke to avoiding careless disposal of smoking materials like ashes or cigarette butts. Is there anything else that people should know when it comes to smoking related fires or fire safety?
You'd be surprised. Falling asleep smoking, smoking while on oxygen. As everyone knows, fire needs oxygen, fuel, and heat. That's the fire triangle. And when you introduce that extra oxygen and it can start up faster, it can burn faster and hotter, it's dangerous. So practice safe smoking if you're going to smoke in the first place.
Absolutely. And here's another question that we've gotten in. How can smokers safely dispose of their cigarette butts and other smoking materials to reduce the risk of future fires?
I mean, use a non-combustible ashtray. So you got glass, you have metal, if nothing else, a bucket of sand and water. That'll put it out, but you don't want to throw it in these combustible areas or smoke on the couch where it could fall into the cushions and start that way. You want to have an ashtray for it, make sure it's out.
Absolutely, and I'll say something from personal experience. Even once your ashes are in the ashtray, we have run fires where the people will swear that they put their cigarettes out in an ashtray, but then when the ashtray gets full, they'll take the ashtray and they dump it in their potted plant.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen that in our district, and there's nothing quite like having that conversation with the resident. They tell you, and they're very proud of their safe smoking habits, and then it turns out that when you put your cigarette out in a full ashtray and then you immediately take it and dump it in the potted plant, it's no different than just putting the cigarettes out in the potted plant.
Mm-hmm.
And then last two questions. The first one is, how can building owners or managers protect their buildings and their residents from these smoking related fires?
Have places to do it, right? Have outside smoking areas, have ashtrays for them to put it out in. You just want to have safe areas so it's much easier for everyone to practice safe smoking. But I think it's a team effort for the building owner and the resident. Just make sure you're doing the right thing.
Absolutely. And then last question, and we'll cut you loose because I know you're on duty. What is one of the biggest misconceptions or myths related to cigarette safety or smoking related fires?
People think these cigarettes are going to put themselves out. They don't. A lot of them fail that test. There's a standard that says they're supposed to put themselves out. Does not mean it's going to happen. That's why you need these ashtrays. You don't want to fall asleep while smoking. It's not going to take care of itself. You just don't want to take that risk.
Well, Firefighter Courson, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciated you sharing your expertise and the experiences that you've seen in the field regarding smoking-related fires. Do you have any closing thoughts or anything you want to pass along to the listeners?
Yeah, it's not just smoking. Practice safety when it comes to fires. Smoke detectors, have a plan with your family. if you're going to smoke, do it in a safe way, outside, have an ashtray, make sure it's out, but just practice safety in everything you do.
I could not agree more. Practice safety in everything you do. That's a great message to end on. Thank you again for joining us.
Yeah.
And thank you to the listeners for tuning in to Burning Questions. We hope you found this episode informative and valuable. So everybody remember, stay safe out there.